Hi. Welcome to today's deep dive lessons from Principles book Believability Weighted Decision Making. One of the most useful ideas is that not all opinions should be treated equally when making decisions. In a group setting, it is easy to think that everyone should have the same voice, but Dalio discovered that decisions are better when they are based on believability. Believability means how much experience and track record a person has in a specific area. If someone has made good decisions in the past and has deep understanding of a topic, then their opinion should carry more weight. In Bridgewater, they use a tool to track believability scores based on performance and experience. When there is a disagreement about an important issue, the team looks at who has the most believability in that area and gives more attention to their opinion. Dalio gives the example of a major market prediction where a less experienced employee disagreed with him. But that employee had a high believability score in that specific market condition. After considering the data, Dalio went with the younger analyst's suggestion, and the result was highly profitable. This story shows how putting ego aside and relying on believable people leads to smarter decisions. Building a culture of meaningful work and meaningful relationships. Dalio believes that the best companies are built not just on smart strategies, but on a deep culture of trust and purpose. He calls this meaningful work and meaningful relationships. Meaningful work happens when people are doing tasks that match their talents and passions. Meaningful relationships are formed when people respect each other enough to speak the truth and support one another through challenges. At Bridgewater, people are expected to challenge each other respectfully and not hide behind politeness. This might seem intense, but it creates an environment where people grow faster. There's a story of a new employee who was shocked by how openly his manager pointed out his weaknesses in a meeting. At first, he felt hurt, but then realized that the feedback helped him improve in ways he never had before. Over time, he became one of the top performers. That happened because the relationship was built on honesty and the work he did was aligned with his strengths. Dalio says that meaningful work and relationships are the two biggest sources of happiness in life and should always be pursued together. Pain plus reflection equals progress. One of the deepest lessons Dalio shares is that pain plus reflection equals progress. Life will always bring pain, whether in the form of failure, rejection, or confusion. Most people try to avoid pain or numb it, but that only delays learning. Instead, Dalio says we should embrace pain as a signal that something important needs our attention. Then we must reflect deeply on what caused it and what we can learn from it. This process of reflecting after painful experiences is what drives real growth. Dalio shares the story of how a wrong prediction early in his career led to the collapse of his firm. It was the most painful period of his life. But instead of quitting, he asked himself hard questions about what he had missed. That reflection taught him to be more humble, more open to other viewpoints, and more systematic in decision-making. Without that pain, he would not have grown. So now, whenever he or his team experience a setback, they hold a reflection session where they write down the causes of the pain and what new principle they can take from it. This turns every failure into a stepping stone for success. Getting the culture right is more important than getting the strategy right. Dalio insists that culture is the foundation on which everything else is built. A company with a great strategy but a weak culture will eventually fall apart. On the other hand, a strong culture can survive setbacks and adapt to changing conditions. At Bridgewater, the culture was carefully shaped over many years to support truth, openness, learning, and excellence. People are hired not just for skill, but for cultural fit. If someone is smart but refuses to be open or refuses to learn from mistakes, they do not last long. One time, a high-performing trader was let go not because of results, but because he kept hiding mistakes and avoiding feedback. Dalio explains that allowing even one person to violate the culture weakens the entire team. Culture is like the immune system of a company. It protects against bad habits and helps the team stay aligned with its values. Building and protecting the right culture takes time and effort, but once it is in place, it becomes the engine that drives long-term success. Use tools and systems to make better decisions. Another powerful idea is to use tools and systems that help take emotion out of decision-making. People often make poor decisions because they rely too much on feelings in the moment. Dalio developed decision-making systems based on logic and data. These systems act like checklists that guide thinking. For example, in investing, Bridgewater uses models that analyze thousands of variables and test them against history. These models do not replace human thinking, but support it. They help reduce bias and catch mistakes that people might miss. There's a story of a trader who wanted to buy a stock based on a gut feeling, but the system flagged that similar situations in the past led to losses. After reviewing the data, the trader changed his plan and avoided a big mistake. These tools were built over years by turning personal experiences into principles and then programming those principles into computer systems. Dalio encourages everyone to write down what works for them and turn it into repeatable processes. This creates consistency and frees the mind to focus on creative thinking instead of routine tasks. Thank you for listening, and please like the video and subscribe for more great upcoming content that will put you in top 1% people in the world.